Welcome to Discover Indie Film. I'm your host, Jeff Howard, and I've got filmmaker Jessica Liu with me. Hi, Jessica.
Hi, Jeff.
I'm so happy to have Jessica here. I last saw her in November 2019 when we had our last in-person film festival, the Sherman Oaks Film Festival 2019, where she brought her film Prom Time, with an exclamation point, Prom Time, to the festival. Loved the film. I think we had a really good audience that day, and people really loved Jessica's film. I'll talk about all the reasons why it's a great film when we get to that part of this podcast. But right now I'm going to point out that Prom Time is in the Discover Indie Film TV series. So if you go to Amazon Prime Video and search for Discover Indie Film, go to Season 3, Episode 9, and you can see Prom Time. And I guarantee, if you've never seen this film before, it's completely original, and I think it's really well made. So thank you for letting it be part of the part of the TV series.
Oh, thanks, Jeff. It's definitely great to see it on Amazon and just to share it with more people.
Yeah, thank you. That's what the whole purpose of, I don't know if I think I probably did tell you that the TV series was born completely out of the podcast, that short filmmakers really weren't, there's not as many places for shorts.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Whereas every feature ends up on Amazon and iTunes and all that. Well, I think I warned you that I was going to ask about your history. So what got you into filmmaking? And I'll add, I'm just going to put you on the spot and point out that Jessica warned me that she is facing one of her fears, which is this kind of public speaking kind of thing.
Right. Yeah, thanks for putting me on the spot, Jeff. But no, just kidding. I think like how I got into filmmaking was definitely as someone that kind of has been a bit introverted and a bit shy growing up. I had a lot of stories and deep thoughts in my head. And I wanted to be a writer, but I went to UC Santa Cruz and ended up taking a pretty cool course, which was, I think it was femininity in technology as a film course. And I thought that was really interesting. It kind of just opened my mind to a different way of seeing the world and even filmmaking, because at that time, as an angsty high schooler, I would say I was kind of I kind of was okay, I'm not really enjoying a lot of the big blockbusters. They're all some were funny, but sometimes it was I'd like to see someone I can relate to a little bit more, and it'd be cool to, take a stab at it. So that's kind of, I guess, the short version.
Can I ask where you grew up?
I grew up in the Bay Area of California.
Yeah, which is wonderful. I went to UC Santa Barbara, so it was half Northern California, half Southern. So, nice. All my friends were from the Bay Area.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I love the Bay Area.
Mm-hmm.
So you went to UC Santa Cruz, which is a fun place, which is a good school, fun place, and so you got inspired. Were you working with cameras, or you were primarily a writer?
Well, the program there is mostly film theory, so it wasn't really the hands-on experience. So how I actually got into actually making films was literally just picking up a camera and kind of going with it and learning on my own projects. Right. So
you away from school,
right?
You picked up a video camera and started having fun with it, editing. Were you using was that in the era where you could finally do some editing yourself on a computer, or were you doing in-camera stuff?
Yeah, it was with, basically my first short was with a DSLR camera, and I think I was using either Final Cut Pro or Adobe, and it was pretty cool because the first short that I did, I was actually studying abroad in Singapore, and I met up with a few other local artists, and I just thought it was a really cool environment, and there's a lot of, stories that weren't told about Singapore, even not only from an American perspective, but also in the country itself. So I just made a very DIY type of short there. And it actually got into a festival, and that kind of just pushed me forward ever since.
Right, so it was a really rewarding experience that it was appreciated.
Right.
And Singapore is a fascinating place. A good friend of mine from high school lives in Singapore now.
Really?
His family was from there, so he made the smart choice of going back, I guess.
Right. Yeah, it is a really cool place. I mean, I think it was just interesting for me at the time because I was, in my early 20s and like thinking about identity as we all do at that time and kind of grappling with like, well, one of my majors besides film was feminist studies, power, culture, and representation, which really dived into like things that are more in the mainstream now, but like, identity, politics, and things like that. And then just to go over to Singapore and kind of be like flipped on its head because suddenly, as a Chinese American person, I was like seen as the majority there. And so it was kind of interesting. And yeah, I basically just touched upon some of those topics there.
Which is fascinating, yeah, because the Bay Area is maybe a little more balanced than the rest of America.
Right.
Most people I know from there are less closed-minded, but yeah, that must have been really amazing to go to Singapore and just get away from all the, I don't want to say politics, but the societal pressures here in America that so many of the Caucasians just think their goal should be assimilation. Right.
I mean, it's actually kind of, what's the word? But it's kind of like this, not the same, but similar, at least in my experience. Obviously, I can't speak for, the whole Singaporean country. I was only there for like a little less than a year, but I kind of felt like I was in that position because there's a lot of, unfortunate things about like other I guess like Chinese Singaporeans that go on by once again the majority. So it was just very interesting.
So it's tough to be non-ethnic Chinese in Singapore, even if someone's Asian, if you're non-Chinese.
Right, there's another divide and hierarchy once again. So
right, which is interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, I won't waste too much time on it, but we got a really great documentary from Singapore about, now I'm forgetting the name, but there's the name it's about gang members.
Okay.
Like, young troubled youth and then a program that rescues them or gets them out of gangs. But yeah, Singapore has everything. Yeah. We don't gangs, ethnic hierarchies. Yeah, caste systems. We didn't. Yeah, the United States is more typical, I guess. Right.
Yeah, I think that's what was helpful to think okay, we have a lot of problems, but it's not like, there's problems everywhere. Not to minimize, but it's just like, this is actually a universal human experience,
Yeah. And the film you made was about that. A little bit. I basically just made a story about 3 young Singaporeans, all from different backgrounds. Like, one was more so based on myself, like someone who had, traveled and studied in another country and came back because that's kind of a popular thing there. And another was a young Malay man, which is a group that it was actually native to Singapore before it was part of Malaysia. And another was just an ethnically Chinese young person. So just to see how their paths differed and what society kind of wanted for them, since there's also this national... there's like a national enlisting process that is forced upon young males. So that was kind of part of it, as well as touching upon the educational system and different tracks that happen there. Interesting, yeah. And I believe Malay people are the labor class? They're sort of subjugated a little?
Yeah, it's definitely tough because there's also the issue of religion. Because... at least from my experience, the Malay people there are Muslims. So there's a lot of laws against at least from what I last checked, like, for example, even if you rise in the, like the military force, you'll never be fully trusted and can't be in a leadership position because the government feels like, oh, you might not be loyal to our country. You might be more loyal to, like, you know, another country with your faith or majority.
Which is the nonsense that the United States did, like during conflicts, not trusting people who were born and raised here. Yeah, amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so you returned from Singapore, and that film had done nicely for you and inspired you. So then, what happened next? Did you have the bug at that point?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think after that, basically, I graduated from college, and my next goal was to move to LA. And I moved here, you know, not having a job or anything, and kind of just focused a lot on, like, trying to, you know, get a foundation going. And I made a couple other short films, but they weren't really something that, I guess it was more so for practice, I would say. You know, one of those situations where, as someone that didn't go to film school, it was kind of funny because looking back at it now, it was hilarious. I basically thought wrongly that I was like, okay, I don't need, you know, a film crew. I'll just have everything on a PVC pipe and start recording and filming that way. But yeah, that was obviously a terrible idea.
Right, you took a pipe and you connected a camera and some lights and some...
and an audio recorder.
Right.
That was very bad.
Look, if you had to,
Very
it's not ideal, but it could get the job done. So you just focused on... So you moved to LA, which is sometimes a big deal for someone from the Bay Area, because I think people grow up sometimes with an anti-LA perspective up there.
Right, I mean, I always kind of idealized it, but... I'm
giving her a thumbs up because I'm an LA native, so it's always nice to hear that people think positively of LA.
Yeah, I actually love LA because my cousins live in the San Gabriel Valley. I mean, I would always visit every year growing up, but it wasn't really, well, LA, the city or whatever, but I always thought, you know, I would love to move there someday. And yeah, I guess filmmaking gave me a reason. And since then I also made another film called Orange Dreams, which played at a few festivals, and I was pretty proud of that film. It was kind of a little bit autobiographical, as well as a tongue-in-cheek type of film about the early 2000s and kind of just delving into that culture a little bit. I would say it's kind of similar to, you know, shows these days like Pen 15 that really pokes fun of like the early, not even social media time of the internet.
I love Pen 15, by the way. I highly recommend everyone look up Pen 15 on Hulu if you haven't watched it.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
Hilarious and heartbreaking.
And just wonderfully awkward, which...
Wonderfully, yes. The awkwardness of adolescence. Yeah. All right, so you made that film, and you just chose not to go to do a film school program.
No, I didn't do one just because, my parents wouldn't pay for it. I mean, to put it bluntly, and I didn't really want to go into debt for that. And I kind of just thought I'd rather spend money on making my own films, which, you know, it's my own personal preference. I think I did definitely lack having like a network, which is something that I would say it seems like the number one thing about film school is like the connections and everything.
Connections. And if anything, you at least meet a lot of people who will work as crew for free at first, right?
Right, exactly.
You help them, they help you. But did you meet like-minded people and start to have your own community of sorts?
Yeah, I definitely have started doing that, which is great. Like I think it was in 2019 or something, joined the Alliance of Women Directors, and that's been a really great support since I actually have befriended a few other directors, and you know, we've teamed up for a project that is up and coming, which I'm sure we can talk about a little later. But yeah, I think just meeting other filmmakers and like people that are passionate about it really keeps me going, just because before I was kind of stuck in my own bubble and feeling like, am I crazy for doing this? You know, which I'm sure every filmmaker or creative feels at some point.
Yeah, it is crazy, but thank God for the crazy people, because otherwise we wouldn't have art, right? I mean, art is a hard choice it's hard to choose in life to make art.
Right, yeah, definitely. I mean, it keeps life interesting.
Absolutely. Well, so that film did all right, and then was Prom Time next. You had always been a writer. I think you said growing up you'd like to write as an introvert and whatnot.
Right.
Was it a really different, writing for film is writing to be seen? Was that different for you, or you really just enjoyed it as much as ever?
I think it's definitely been something I had to learn, and I'm still learning, the screenwriting process versus writing prose, which is a lot more descriptive. And it was definitely a love-hate relationship at first, because I think writing screenplays, sometimes it can feel a bit mechanical. Like you have to really get, a certain page count and don't get too descriptive, but also show your own flair, which can be, a bit challenging. But I definitely have grown to love it more and more. And this past year, actually, I've been focusing a lot on writing and just doing I finished my first pilot as well as feature in terms of writing. So that's been really fun.
Excellent. Well, so is Prom Time the next thing that comes up in your timeline?
Yes.
So you were already in LA when you made Prom Time.
Yes. For all the films I've done so far, I actually also wrote them. And Prom Time is definitely I would say probably my favorite thing I've made thus far. And strangely enough, the most personal, which I guess is true, as they all say, the more personal, the more universal, ironically. And the more you open yourself up and get vulnerable, actually people will resonate with that more, which I think is useful to hear to all creative artists.
Yeah, because you were sharing something true that you experienced, and so that truth is probably what audiences respond to.
Right.
Although also, it's very funny.
Oh, thank you.
Do you often write comedy?
Yes. I basically, I love comedy. I would say, dark comedy or quirky comedy, a little offbeat. And I think what was cool also about Prom Time is I delved into topics that I felt were a bit taboo, and actually was well received. I was kind of a bit nervous about, especially one scene in the film, but people definitely all responded well. So
I think I know what you're talking about. We don't have to do spoilers if you don't want. People should definitely watch it in the Prime series. It's only $1 or $8 for the season, so well worth it. But I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah. It's during the hallucination.
Right.
Yeah. It is that. It is. It's both daring but tasteful.
Oh, that's good to hear.
Yeah, and I always, that's... Well, so as you were writing that and you say it was personal, I guess I should ask, do you have a sister?
No, I'm actually an only child.
Only child. So you decided to split into two, or you decided to have two daughters just so there'd be two people for the mother to...
Right, just to kind of showcase sometimes there's certain traits. I think that, mothers may be oh, I gave you all your good traits, but why do you have these terrible ones? Or, something like that. And I thought that would be just a cool thing to see visually, as represented by two daughters. Yeah,
and I love one of the things that instantly in the film right away, and definitely I don't think this spoils anything, is we get an inner monologue. You start right off, and definitely the voice you give the mother as someone who isn't a mother yet, I think it's very sincere and very real. But you just created that, right? I assume you haven't heard a mom talk this way about her her daughters?
Well, my mom growing up was definitely very, very blunt, and are definitely some quotables in there from her, but I think, I definitely kind of got her voice in my head when creating this character and just went with it and went to the extreme.
For sure. Mm-hmm. So in a way, it's almost a love letter to mom.
Yeah, a twisted love letter, I would say.
Twisted, but I think it's very humanizing. I think it really shows us, as a parent, I love seeing a film that gives us empathy into the position of being a parent. Mm-hmm. She, I think I even said to you, well, we discussed it at the Q&A at the festival a little, but yeah, the mom is a great character, and both daughters are wonderfully acted and written.
Oh yeah, they definitely did great. I really feel great about the cast. Everyone in that film really helped just elevate the script and bring it to life. And I think that's one of the things I wanted to do. Just as, an Asian American filmmaker, I kind of felt the pressure okay, I need to make something, just put my drop in the bucket about Asian American stuff, because it was kind of the feeling of I don't only want to make Asian American content, but I also do want to express some part of it. So I just thought, what's the thing I want to see? And I always saw a lot of, I guess, content or films where the Asian immigrant parent is kind of more caricatured, and I wanted to dive into the mind of an Asian mom and just kind of thought that would be hilarious, but also a bit insightful.
Definitely insightful and human, and it shows a mom as a sexual being, which I think is so cool, because of course everyone grows up thinking their parents are eunuchs.
Right.
So
you don't want to think about that sometimes.
You don't want to, yeah. But you get older and you realize, of course, that's an element of every human life.
Right. Yeah, I think what's interesting to me is the idea of just desire, and especially in characters you don't think of having that. So that was one of the inspirations. Especially, I think also, not only the Asian mom, but a mom in general, or an older female, or just female desire in general. I thought that would be pretty interesting, since growing up in the being a teenager in the early 2000s, there were a lot of movies Superbad and things like that are about male coming of age and sexuality, which is fun to watch. But I also wanted to see another experience of that.
For sure. And actually, I was very interested in something you said, because you said you didn't, you felt a little bit of an obligation in a way to tell a story that doesn't get told. As an Asian American female filmmaker, you didn't have an agenda as much as you almost felt a responsibility. Right,
exactly. Yeah, I think that's something that, that's just something that I felt in the back of my mind. I guess that's kind of something that maybe people of marginalized backgrounds may think sometimes, or at least I would think that, I obviously the first thing I want to do is tell a story that is engaging, entertaining, and is just really, really great to watch. But at the same time, I also want to make sure that I'm not neglecting my community or anything like that. And it's also more interesting, I think, to see people you don't normally see on the big screen, or their stories anyway.
Yeah, obviously the Asian American community is underrepresented on film and TV, and being underrepresented, and as much as one might feel an obligation, it's also an opportunity, right? Because the stories don't get told, and so when an old white guy like me sees a film that is insightful about a community or a perspective that's underrepresented, it's just naturally more engaging, I think. Right. Because, you make me think of Jordan Peele saying, he said, famously said during COVID, I don't think I'll ever make a movie where the lead role is a white guy, because I I've seen that movie. We've all seen enough of it. So yeah, let's represent fairly until we stop noticing.
Right. Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
Yeah. You happen to be alive at the time. If you were born 50 years later, you might go watch films from this era and go, it's so nice that they started representing the underrepresented then, so that I don't have to feel obligated.
Right.
It's tricky, but I think you do a great job with it.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. And so I got to see the film in November of 2019, 3 months before COVID hit.
Right.
So was that towards the end? Did you get to take it to many festivals during when the world was still open?
I was actually able to screen it. I think this was literally probably the last in-person festival at the San Francisco Indie Film Festival in, I think, February of 2020. So that would have been the end, right before. Yeah.
Well, that's wonderful. So you got to have. Did your hometown crowd come out for you?
Oh yeah, it was great to invite like my childhood best friend and just invite a few other people there, and yeah, it was like really nice. I think that was like a checklist to be like I screened something in the Bay Area. Definitely.
Feel free to say, Jeff, I'm not answering that. But what did your mom think of the film?
Jeff, I'm not
not going to answer.
No, well, the thing is, I think with my mom, I guess, she tries not to talk about things like that. So it's like she probably saw it on her own, but didn't say anything. So it's like, that's too awkward. Anyways, let me nag you about something else.
For sure. Yeah. I remember saying to you at the Q&A after the film, like I said, I really thought the mom was going to walk in the room and say, I love you girls. And you turned to me and said,
that's too far.
Yeah, you said, that's unrealistic.
Yeah, that's too far.
Which was so funny. You just bluntly said, no, I'm not making pure fiction. Well, excellent. So you had a nice festival run. Did you carry that into COVID? Were there a couple of festivals that went virtual and you were stuck doing that?
Yeah, I was also able to have prom time in a virtual showcase, Cinema Femme, which was really cool because I actually was the winner of that showcase and was able to be paired up with the Emmy Award winner Kate Hackett, who has worked on a bunch of Netflix series. So that was really great to be connected with her, as well as the film actually gave me an opportunity through another festival, which basically provides the opportunity to create a micro-budget feature film for first timers. So that's really awesome.
That's all. And is that something you're working on? Is that so? You were saying that you've been doing a lot of writing. Lockdown came, and at least you could still write, even though we were all stuck at home. That's
definitely that's the thing to do. I would say, and actually, I really I think I refound my joy of writing because I took a bunch of screenwriting classes, and that's just really helped me become a better storyteller, I would say. So yeah, I've been doing that as well as developing the feature film with a writer. So I'll be directing it, and she will be writing it, which is pretty cool.
Oh, so you saved yourself the trouble of writing, but you're collaborating on the story?
Yes. Yeah, so I'm collaborating with she's a writer, actress, Luam Iyasu, who's also a friend of mine, and she was the winner of the festival in terms of the writer capacity. So we paired up, and we're going to make the micro-budget feature.
Oh, wonderful. Wonderful. Is that planned, or you have to wait for all the... Because Lord knows COVID protocols are expensive, so you can't exactly do micro-budget.
Yeah, that's kind of what's been a bit of a hurdle, and but we're, moving forward one step at a time, and hopefully it will film in early 2022.
Which is coming up. Crazy. We're almost in 2022.
Yeah.
I can't believe it. It was 2019 when Prom Time was at the Sherman Oaks Film Festival.
Right.
And now 2022 is around the corner.
It still feels like 2019.
It does. Well, so after that experience, is there been anything else that you've been inspired by in the last since Prom Time hit the festival circuit?
Well, there actually is another exciting project. I have joined forces with 6 other female directors, we're all friends from, well, except 2 of them, from Alliance of Women Directors, and we all were kind of, commiserating before COVID started, and we were like, we've all done shorts, and we really want to do a feature. So we decided to join forces and do an anthology together, which is Through the Blinds anthology. Each one of us has a separate decade from the 50s to current day, and it all takes place under one roof, each about a different story through America's history that has been untold.
That's a wonderful idea. I have to say, I'm not the first. I often think to myself, all this money going into making short films, if only they could be stitched together into a feature for later enjoyment.
Right.
So you will have 6 separate shorts that about 15 minutes each or so, I guess.
Right.
So you get a 90-minute film.
Yeah, that's the goal. Like, we're going to have them connected with different through lines and interesting themes and things like that. But we also get to each showcase our different styles and strengths as directors.
Very cool. What decade did you get?
I got the 80s.
Oh, fun. Even if it was before your time, I guess does it force you to do some research, or you got enough 80s in your head? I
mean, I think, I love 80s music, not so much the fashion, but, it was fun to do some research, and I think it's going to be a pretty interesting project because I'm delving into the idea of, it's basically about a young neurodiverse girl who her sexuality is budding all amongst this neighborhood, which is being terrorized by a serial killer.
Wow, that is fertile ground for writing. Yeah, that's a lot more that's so interesting. Your writing instincts are great. Obviously, and this team is probably really great because there's nothing worse than when it's just it's just stuff that happens in a cabin or something,
Yeah, just having, I think, the decades really helps. And, all our themes of, what are untold various American women's stories, And actually, Luisa Novo's part of the team, too.
Oh, she is. Did you, and because she's in that alliance.
Right, yeah.
Did you know her before?
I met her through the alliance.
Oh, cool. Was she the one who told you to submit to Sherman Oaks? Maybe not. I don't know.
I think so, actually.
For those who don't know, Luisa Novo had a film, I think it might have been at Film Invasion LA, in 2017. And then she had another film in June of 2020. So yeah, she's actually a 3-timer.
Oh, wow.
2-timer? No, 3-timer. She's brought 3 shorts to, the last one was a web series. But anyway, I think she's wonderful. So that's great. I'm excited.
Yeah.
Such and differing point of views because she's from Brazil and you're from your Bay Area American Chinese. So good perspectives.
Yeah, it's definitely really exciting, just to work with her and all the other different directors.
Wonderful. Well, are you ready to do your 4 questions or anything else you want to share?
I'm ready.
Ready? Okay. Well, then we'll wrap it up. Is there a website you want people to, if people are interested in checking out your earlier shorts or anything about you? Do you have the website going, or do you want a social media handle shared?
My website is thejessicaliu.com, and my Instagram is jessicajliu.
Excellent. Okay, well, then you guys know that now. You know how to find Jessica's work. And now I will do the quick wrap up so that we can get to the next podcast where Jessica will answer the Discover Indie Film 4 questions, which are kind of fun. But like I said in the intro, Jessica's film Prom Time is a wonderful, fun, just fascinating film. I actually, you should watch it. I am assigning homework. Watch it like once a week for a month, because each time you watch it, you see fascinatingly different perspectives and things, and the intergenerational relationships, I think, are really just great in it. So you can watch that if you go to Amazon Prime Video, search for Discover Indie Film, and go to Season 3, Episode 9. And Prom Time, I discovered Prom Time through the show. But Discover Indie Film, if you're interested in the podcast, or the website, or the TV series, you can learn about it at the website, discoverindiefilm.com. And on social media, it's at DIFWins. Okay, I said that right, finally. And the Sherman Oaks Film Festival is where Prom Time was in 2019, and you can learn about that festival that we hold every November if you go to ShermanOaksFF.com, and on social media, it's at ShermanOaksFF. And there is a sister festival every June that is, you can learn about it if you go, it's Film Invasion Los Angeles, and you can learn about it at FilmInvasionLA.com, and on social media, it's at FilmInvasionLA. And I have now finished my closing spiel, so thank you so much for coming in.
Oh, thank you, Jeff. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and thanks for having your film be a part of the Discover Indie Film TV series. Really proud to have it in there. And thank you, everyone, for listening.